that would be mine. I had muted while we were doing this. The Yeah, so don't worry, I'm still here.
Right, right, okay. Um, Hi, we are talking about Google Ads and verticals from what I'm used to means the different type of businesses, because we use the term verticals in newspapers to describe our specialties. So I was sports and nightclubs for a while, right? And or entertainment. I was entertainment because who doesn't like to have fun? But so that was a vertical. So when we came up with this topic, it was about the different things we have come up against while running Google Ads. So the different types of industries that are affected or have little nuances that we wanted to tell you about today. Right, Phelan? That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, it's going to be ones that, industries or business types that you may not thought of, like issues before you start running Google Ads, what you need to do and what you need to be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, this is all going to be, specific to certain, locations as well, right? That's a big one as well.
Ooh, what do you mean?
Well, so we can run text-based ads for like a sex shop in Canada, but you definitely can't do that in other countries. So there's like you need to double check with Google Ads where there's those restrictions, where there's not.
I didn't think you could run sex shop ads currently. I mean, I
Text
know you. Yeah.
Text-based you can, because it's
Mm.
text because it's triggered by the keyword, right? And so Google does moderate, so you're not going to be able to advertise to certain people, but obviously, like they do change that. I mean, we've run into that one as well. We don't usually run it, but that's because we also like to have display campaigns, which obviously you can't do with certain restricted topics or explicit
So
topics.
yeah, so we work with one of the most well-known specialty adult shops in Vancouver. And so that's why we know that. So because there are restrictions, and you worked at Shopify, which actually opened up your eyes to some industries that are affected on Google. Are there animals out there doing things that we should know about?
No one doing anything bad, just more just people walking by and just cats that aren't usually outside walking around.
Right, right. If you're joining us, say hi. We'd love to know who is out there and what you're working on today. So we're gonna dive into. I have notes. We're gonna dive into many things. So when I looked up this topic, one of the interesting things was that it came up with the different types of ads to do versus the different type of industries. And so we're more talking kind of, I guess, policy stuff, but some things that we've run up against that it's good to know before you get started. So,
Yeah.
um, so that's why you're going to see maybe two different titles running around about this topic. And that's why we came up with the topic. There's many industries and many different things, many different verticals. So some you can actually specialize like with industry and Google Ads, right? So I could be a hotel Google Ads specialist. Um, I worked for a company where they had a division where there was one sales rep for the auto industry in Google Ads. I found that fascinating, um, because auto industry spends a boatload. And then if you look up auto industry, which is really interesting, and Google Ads, you get AdSense. Did you know that, Phil? Anyway, it's a whole
Get
nother industry.
oh,
Yeah.
hmm.
And AdSense is where you get paid for people seeing your ads. Or like you have a website with ads on it and you get paid like a pittance, right? Ooh, a pittance.
As well, and YouTube. So any
And
payouts you get, basically, if there's a system that Google pays you out, they pay you out through AdSense. I think also apps as well. If you have in-app purchases, those technically
okay,
go through the AdSense
AdSense.
program, because it's just any way that they pay anyone out that's part of their system is through AdSense.
Mm. And they're different. So AdSense and Google Ads are different platforms. So there's actually a question in the Facebook group GG, aka originally Girl Gang, which this was the topic of discussion recently, actually, which is interesting. But so we've run into many situations. where we've had to find solutions for different industries because different industries have different rules, regulations, nuance, like liquor. So Phelan, we worked with a brewery, a meadery,
Yeah.
and they wanted to do Google Ads. We were like, oh yeah, that'd be fun, interesting. And we knew there were some restrictions on Google Ads. And what did we discover? We
So so yeah, that you can do location based targeting in Google Ads, but to do shopping ads, you would need to connect your Google Merchant Center account, and to connect your Google Merchant Center account, you need to be approved in every province.
mhm,
In Quebec, it's got its own system because of just weird historical
it's
things.
Quebec.
And anyway, they um, d- to get approvals is just prohibitively expensive, and so it's just easier to not do it. But that also means that when Google tests your checkout and they test each province as a location, you get flagged for not going to every location.
Hmm. So you can't do shopping ads for liquor companies that selling across Canada. Um, in the states, do we know the rules in the states? Because you can go like, do they don't have the same kind of restrictions between states, do they? With
So
booze.
that's a good question. I don't know it off the top of my head. My understanding is because of the interstate commerce clause, they're not allowed to restrict flow of goods being sold between states.
Even liquor, eh?
Uh,
Liquor's got
y-
lots of
y-
restrictions.
it does have restrictions. Like just off the top of my head, I'm gonna guess Utah is probably gonna have some weird exceptions because of the
Mm,
history of that place.
interesting.
But um,
It's
uh,
also
it,
different because you can buy liquor in grocery stores, which you cannot do in Canada. They are specific stores, right, for liquor. So there's that. But let's list off a few and then go into the things we've seen, right? Because so the restricted ads are solicitation of funds. So you can't ask
yeah,
for you can't explicitly ask for donations. Like we've run across that. We have a nonprofit we work with, and yeah, so donations are a thing. Uh, the free desktop software, that's number two. And I think that could be
yeah.
related to like Norton antivirus type stuff and maybe even the phone fixing, which they can't advertise now, right?
Yeah, it's gonna almost guarantee that it has something to do with people installing malware on people's
Mm,
computers and
and they're,
phones. Like
yeah,
I would put money down.
right. Well, I mean, they took away so a few years ago, and I mean, I'd have to check, but so if you can't run Google Ads, it can kill an industry, like literally kill your business because there's like I
Mm,
mean what 91% of all search traffic goes through Google. So if you can't
yeah,
advertise on Google, then you're only you got SEO, or else you have to find other ways to advertise, like maybe on Reddit or somewhere like that. But um, so a couple years ago, Google decided that companies that fix like the phones, the glass casing on the phone and things like that, there you can't advertise there, right? On Google.
yeah, and I think also you can't it's very complicated. Uh, I believe, don't quote me on it, but I believe that there's actually a court case at the U.S. Supreme Court about the viability of these
Mm,
businesses, and I think it had to do with that. And Google basically just put up their hands and said, until we get an official ruling, we're just not you're not allowed to advertise.
interesting, right? And then we got local services. We'll dig more into that. Consumer advisories, government documentation services, which is really interesting because I don't know if y'all know this, but political ads. We know that, well, there's been a lot of talk um, in politics and marketing. And if you saw recently somebody really famous, I think Dylan Mulvaney and her friend, um, Trump used them as in their political ads. But there are rules with political ads, and that if a political, I don't know, outlet buys ads, they have to pay the premium price, and they all have to pay the same amount. Like at the newspaper, there were no deals, which is great. We loved it, right? Because they're paying like premium dollar for ads. Now I don't know how Facebook or YouTube works. I do know there are restrictions, and like, so you won't find in Google Ads any ads related to politics unless they break through that, which people do, right? People get through the guidelines in their own ways, right? Um,
Yeah, my understanding with anything related to elections is that you actually have you have to get an official, especially in Canada, you have to get an official approval from Elections Canada. They need to sign off that you're running, and then you can run political ads. And um, so it's a very formalized system. You can't just
yeah.
like run ads yourself to do it. But yeah, it's definitely one that I've seen where yeah, it's got quite a process to it.
Right. And that kind of brings us actually into our ticketing. So the other ones are call directories, event, bail bonds, third party consumer technical products. I'm not seeing medical in here. Medical's a big one. And high fat sugar and food beverages, which I did not know about. I think so we'll go into the ticketing in a minute, but I think the most important thing is a lot of these nuances you find when you're working on accounts, right? Like hotels
Yeah.
are very specific to Google Ads. When I started out when we started out having our own company, I ended up working for another company and they did Google Ads for travel. And like, I mean, that's where I learned how to do the Google AdWords editor, because basically you were just switching out locations, right? And they were affiliates. So yeah, it was kind of crazy. But so hotels and areas have issues with ads, but ticketing is we ran into a serious problem with ticketing, right? We had a client. We still have that client. They're lovely. And they were running an event. So they'll build a website and run an event. And
Yeah.
what did we do? We were running ads. They were working great. And we were like, ooh, maybe we should switch the landing page. And we switched the landing page to
the page where you actually go and purchase the ticket rather than the homepage where you learned about the event itself. And then that led you to the ticketing page. And even though they were officially part of the like, they were as official as you could be as a member of this event, as soon as they had the Ticketmaster embed or Live Nation, one of the companies, as soon as that iframe loaded, Google flagged it for legally selling third-party tickets.
yeah.
So obviously they don't want ticket scalpers. They don't want people. You need to be. Of course, there is like a system that if you are official, I mean, we could have filled out a form, but the verification would have taken so long that the event was running out, and so it was just a little bit easier for us to do the workaround.
But
And
that's
so that's one
important.
that.
If you are running an event and you want to use Google Ads, sign up, like go look in ahead of time, and all you got to do is fill out a form, and then you
Yeah.
can advertise that. And I think the rules with ticketing is because of scalpers, right?
Yeah, and I'm gonna and other sort of unsavory characters that maybe said that they had tickets when they actually didn't have tickets. A lot of other, I'm just out of being cynical and thinking that these rules are here because someone did something bad. I'm gonna guess that someone scammed people of some kind.
I did once, when I was very, very young, followed the Grateful Dead for a minute, hot minute, and I got a ticket off a dude, and it was a fake ticket. So yeah, it's probably those people selling fake tickets. But I did get into the show because I am that lucky. But a story for
That's
another
good.
day, right? So we don't know much about the high sugar, salt food and beverage ads, which is very interesting. Um,
Yeah, my guess is that they just can't do the same advertising. It looks like, again, in the official Google Docs, that there is a form you can fill out that can help you get through that process. So I'm gonna wager that they're just not letting you like advertise unhealthy foods just willy-nilly. I think again there's a bit of a formal process where you're going to get vetted.
So, and this wouldn't apply to all those organic, wonderful foods at Whole Foods, which we do know a couple people that work in those industries. So, but I like that. I
Yeah.
like that there's regulation on that. Now, interesting things we've seen. Now, So we'll set up Google Ads accounts. And then we
Yeah.
often get, once we start running, we'll get an email from our clients that are like, 14 ads disapproved. This is normal. And one of the reasons I was disapproved is because I used the word edge. Can you believe
That
edge?
that definitely. Yeah. I mean, the most common one that you and I have come across for reasons why we got disapproved, specifically for policy issues, is going to be housing.
Mm,
Because again, people have been bad in the past in discriminating against people, and so there's restrictions on what keywords you can bid on, and how you can do your targeting.
yeah.
Um,
The how you can
if
do
you
your
do,
targeting, you can't do income brackets, right?
yeah,
But you can do location. But if you do, well, I mean, postal code location, so there's rules between doing postal codes and doing areas, right? For
yeah,
housing.
yeah, for the housing, generally you want to do it as kind of like generalizable, so it works well in Canada because we don't do like specific zip code postal codes, but we can do like, because it's 6 characters long, you could do the first three, and that can get you like the entire valley where we live, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're actually like getting a huge bracket of people, and so it doesn't look like, oh, I want to get like the wealthy neighborhood. You're just like, I want
Mm-hmm.
to get this whole area. And so it looks a little nicer to Google Ads, and you can, of course, you can always like appeal these ones and talk to someone. um
I
but
do.
it's generally.
Yeah, sorry. We have a couple clients who target the wealthiest areas in the States. But
Yeah,
they're e-commerce and high ticket things, right? Which are I
yeah,
think the best on Google Ads to work with. So, expensive items. Schools work really well. Um, and I don't know, e-commerce products, right, work really well. I've yet to buy. Oh no, I have bought furniture. Furniture, I think, works really well. But this is not about what works well. This is about problems.
yeah,
So,
but generally, like, the one that you could run into is if you do any home repairs or anything like that, and you do a location based targeting, you might run into that issue because of the keywords that you're bidding on. So be wary of that. And then just like I
tell
said,
us more
make it
about
more
that.
well, because we had people that were doing air duct cleaning or like home
Mm,
repair stuff. And so because it was homes and for sale or services, that kind of triggers the real estate side of things, which is the housing violation.
mm-hmm,
And so you just need to be wary of it, that even if you're not actually in real estate as like a specific industry, the keywords that you can bid on and the targeting that you do can set off these, because you fit the Venn diagram of things that they need to flag in order to
mm-hmm.
make sure that they're not violating these policies.
Yeah, I think one thing to mention is a lot of these policies came out of poor behavior.
Yeah,
So where local service ads came from, and I do quite love this story. Local service ads, the new ads you see at the top of Google, started out and they're like Google guaranteed ads. So you have to put in your insurance and all the things. They're actually trying to get you to do that in the regular other types of Google ads you can do, but that's a different story, different day. But local service ads, it was um, locksmiths that were the first, right?
yeah,
There because the
and
barrier to
garage
yeah.
door opener.
Oh,
So
that was
sorry, it's
second.
the two of them, right? Because they're the people that get access to your house, that know how to get in and out of your house and where the weak points are in your
Mm,
house. And so, it was one where there have been locksmiths that said that they were a locksmith, and turns out they weren't a locksmith, and then they just went into your house and took things from you.
yeah,
Um,
right. So
and so
you
they,
gotta be weary with things, online
yeah,
still, and so that's why it started out with those two businesses, and so they got approvals, and so they showed up on the Google guaranteed, and you get the Google check mark, and who doesn't want to be there? And you actually pay per lead versus per impression and click, which is the other type of Google ads. But then, Phelan, are you tired today?
no,
No, you're not tired. I thought you were tired.
no,
I'm a little tired. Um, okay, so we got housing and local service ads, but one that's really interesting along this is the medical. So we don't often think about this, like, you know, you cannot advertise so Botox, or you can, but you need special permission from Google. You have to fill out a form. So if you're, say, a cosmetic, I don't know, where you go and you get certain skin procedures done, if Botox is on every page on your website, or you're a dentist, that was the example I had. You're a dentist, you offer Botox. If it's on every page of your website, all those pages will probably be denied. So you have to, even if you want to promote Botox, you can't say it in your ad, you can't have it on a landing page, or else it'll get denied. Unless you're like a distributor, and then I think you can go through the process. That's a more rigorous process. So anything related to health stuff is more restricted, right? I think they're going to have more scrutiny on those things, especially things that you're injecting into your face. You know?
Well, and I mean, just generally, there's going to be restrictions on anything that's medical, anything that's like tobacco, alcohol,
Mm,
firearms, recreational drugs, like cannabis
yeah.
may be legal in Canada, but Google is still an American company, so they're not allowed to advertise that part of it.
Well, we do
There's
tell.
going to be
Oh, good. You
what's
you
oh,
go.
go
You
ahead.
go. You go.
Yeah, there's going to be obvious like restrictions that are just the same no matter what kind of advertising it's going to be, and Google and Facebook are going to comply with what are the standing statutes. And they're probably going to have like some sort of formal way to get you through that process, but there's definitely ones where yeah, there's going to be restricted content that, like we talked about at the top, sexualized content,
Hmm.
counterfeit goods, any sort of dangerous goods or requires a certain age restrictions, anything like that.
Like so when we get hired to work with people, or if people reach out to us and we find out their industry, so we don't work generally with sex stores, anything smoking, so weed or cigarettes, or the other ones, the pen, whatever they are, the
Vaping.
vaping. Um, so we don't really work with liquor, ticketing. If we don't have the landing page, then we also choose not to work with hotels, because they're very industry specific. So they have specific things that you need to be doing for those types of ads, in that vertical. And then so there's hotels and cars. We don't work with automotive, right? I think those are our
and
major restrictions.
and any job hiring, because that's also its own vertical of having to deal
Mm,
with Google, because there's a specific promotion type, and there's a whole bunch of just specific to jobs postings, and that they're definitely going to make it a little more challenging, similar to auto and
mm,
hotel, where
right.
it's got its own little process.
And then there's gambling. So gambling's got lots of restrictions, and the types of, funny enough, if you do any streaming or anything, or you see a lot of pop-ups in places, um, the businesses that can't advertise on Google usually will end up going over to trying Reddit, or trying Yelp, because there's less restrictions or different restrictions, or they'll be the pop-ups you see, right? Pop a
Yeah.
shop on your, um, but because
There's
they can't
also,
get on Google.
yeah, I was going to say the other one that's come up recently is, I guess, Acaster, or one of these automated networks, has been putting in a lot of gambling ads into podcasts.
Oh, interesting.
Um, yeah, very annoying, very. But yes, I've been getting a lot of like in a podcast, and it's like I'm in Canada, so they're like they insert in like basically before I download, they dynamically
Hmm.
insert an ad, and then this ad's going to be for gambling. Um,
Mm.
and it also has to do with some, I think 2 years ago, restrictions on gambling just got removed as well.
Oh, there's an enormous wealth of knowledge being shared here. Aw, that's nice of you. Yeah, we have fun with this stuff. We live this. Hold on. I want to turn off the title, as there you go. And then I can see your comment. Ha, look at that. I'm getting so much better at this. Appreciate that. The thing, Phelan, you were just talking about the gambling, and that kind of brings us into family friendly stuff, right?
Yep.
So it's got to be safe for families. So, I mean, that includes online dating. So, the things you don't often see, like you don't see Google advertising. I'm surprised Google hasn't done a date like Facebook. Didn't Facebook do a dating thing? Didn't they have a.
They
Yeah,
they
they did.
tried, and then it failed spectacularly. Yes.
I don't, maybe it'll work. But so there are family safe. And it's funny because when you do ads in the display ads or even in the search ads, you can pick where your content shows up, right? If you want your ads to show up on blogs or things like that, you can pick where you don't want your ads to show up, like on risque content or parked domains. Like you don't want your stuff showing up there because who cares? So there's lots of rules. The other one is financial. So I'm thinking this kind of looks like YMYL, which is your money, your life for
Yeah.
SEO, but this is your money or your life for Google Ads, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, I'm gonna guess that it's probably something with like Google also doesn't want exposure, right? Like they don't want to be dragged into a lawsuit if they help to advertise a certain company and that company turned out to defraud people. Then they could be on the hook because they help promote them and then give them
mm,
material support. Um, I'm gonna guess that Google is like their lawyers went through and said, yeah, we gotta like if you let this happen, we could have exposure, right? And then they could be caught up in a lawsuit.
yeah, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with SEO and Google Ads that as this is why experts are hired because if somebody gets a hold of us and they're like, yeah, I want to promote my liquor across the country and I think I can do it, they'll be like, this might not work and here's why. And then we can provide
Yeah.
documentation which is helpful, and we've learned the hard way because the nuance, like if you go to Google Ads policies, I mean, what do they tell you? Counterfeit goods, dangerous goods, dishonorable behavior, inappropriate content. These are things that aren't going to necessarily help you. I mean, you have to dig to see sexual content and alcohol and copyrights and gambling and healthcare and political content, financial services. Do we have ticketing, trademarks? Oh, yeah, trademarks, legal requirements. So there's all sorts of things. I mean, bankruptcy people cannot do retargeting, things like that. So there's nuance in many businesses. And so always good to read the requirements. So many of us won't be affected. But if you're going to hire a Google Ads specialist, you want to know that they can specialize in your industry. Always good to ask, hey, okay, you do Google Ads. What kind of Google Ads do you do? What kind of industries do you work with? Because that does affect your skill set, your skill level, right? So you can be really specialized, which is kind of fun if you really dig something. Like, I mean, we came in contact with a garage door company that just served garage door companies for marketing, right?
Yeah.
And so we
Well, yeah,
lost.
and
Yeah.
and then also that's another one where we had like location-based targeting that affected the ads, and
Mm,
because like you couldn't do garage door advertising in the states, and because where we're located, and you do a big radius, you actually wind up hitting the states, so you had to like do all this specific targeting to the location.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This topic is really interesting to us. We work in Google Ads all the time. So if you have questions about Google Ads, feel free to pop us a note anywhere. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. If you are not in the Facebook group, we are live in it's called Geek Speak in Cyberpunk Geeks Marketing Mixer. Long name, super fun, full of marketers and business owners who love marketing. So we talk about stuff in there. This topic actually brought up a great idea at the end, which was really interesting, which is talking about all the different types of ads available in Google Ads. So I think we're going to do that as a topic. So stay tuned. We are deciding our summer agenda. So if you have topics you'd like us to talk about or you want to dive into a topic, let us know and we'll maybe put that on the agenda. But for now, we're done today. Happy Thursday, and we will see you next week. Yay! And Phelan, we're going back to work. We have a new system we're implementing. We'll tell you guys more on that later. Oh, sure thing. I love the sure thing. Okay, we will see you next week. I think I will check who that lovely person is because I can't see them. I'm thinking it might be Glenna. I could be
I would
wrong.
guess it's Glenna
Haha.
or a bunch.
Right? Or Rena or somebody else that's lovely and maybe Greg. Somebody else lovely and amazing. I'll go see. Or it could be Aura. I feel like I am in Romper Room talking with my mirror saying, I see Jody and you'll get it if you were born in the 70s. Late 70s. Okay. Anyway, so we'll see you next Thursday. Same bad time, same bad place. If you're wondering what we're going to talk about, look in the banner of the Facebook group and you'll see the topic there. All right. Bye.